Hello, and thanks so much for joining us for another episode of Regarding Consciousness. It is such a pleasure to be here with you and to have with us a pioneer in energy medicine, which those of you who have been listening, if this is your first episode, I am the CEO of om-heals.com, a platform that matches people with the best energy medicine practitioner for them around the world. And it is my passion, as I was sharing with Ellen before the show started, to bring energy medicine to the world. So I'm very excited to share a little bit about her journey with you today and talk to a woman who's been doing this for, 40 years. Ellen Meredith is the author of Your Body Will Show You the Way and The Language Your Body Speaks. She has been in practice since 1984 as an energy healer, conscious channel, and medical intuitive, helping over 10,000 students and clients worldwide. As an energy medicine practitioner, Ellen helps clients engage with the body's energies to activate healing. She teaches energy medicine courses on the Shift Network and has served on the faculty of energy medicine pioneer Donna Eden since 2010. Thank you so much for being here with us, Ellen.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure. So, how was it that you became, especially, my gosh, back in 1984, how did you even discover energy medicine back then?
Well, I was originally taught by my inner teachers. I have these groups of inner teachers that I call my councils, and I've been working with them pretty intensively for maybe 50 years. And at one point, they said, You're going to be moving to California and you're going to get very sick. And in the process of healing, you're going to become a healer or an energy medicine. They didn't call it energy medicine, they said energy healer. And what I heard in that whole speech was, You're going to move to California. And I was so excited because I love California. And it did, in fact, happen that I moved to California and I did become very ill. And I ended up through a series of not so coincidental coincidences, working with a complementary practitioner who does something called applied kinesiology, which involves muscle testing and meridians and all kinds of stuff like that. And what I discovered working with her was that I could actually see what was going on in my own body. And I could look at the whole wall of supplements she had in her office and see which ones I needed, not only which one I needed, but how much of each one I needed. And that was news to me. And I think that the lesson in that isn't, oh, I've got special powers, but that all of us have all kinds of abilities that we don't discover if we aren't put in a situation that helps us discover them or find them out. So I discovered that I had a lot of medical intuitive ability. And when I healed, the practitioner invited me into her office to work as a medical intuitive. And I started working there very part-time, but then clients started coming to me individually. And I'm also a conscious channel. So they came for readings, they came for healings, and it just took off. And, that was 40 years ago, and here I am now.
Beautiful. I love it. Oh gosh, we may have to start over. I am getting there some sort of really not so pretty background noise we're getting. All right, so
Okay.
we don't have to start over. I'll just see it. James, I'm going to make a note. How far in are we? About 8 minutes in. I'll make a note to James that we're going to have to edit this back. I just got some feedback. Edit.
And why don't I change microphones?
Yeah, that might be a little better because all of a sudden I started getting this really strong background noise.
Okay, and I don't know why, because sometimes, we've got everything turned off here. We don't have any Wi-Fi on in the house. I've got the
You have too much energy. It happens all the time. I was getting a healing session, a unity field healing earlier, and the practitioner Brenda was telling me, she's like, "Well, make sure your phone's plugged in because the energy's so strong it may just break the computer." I'm like, "Okay, girl."
Oh my God, yeah, Donna Eden, who's a good friend of mine, she breaks computers regularly. She just, she has 2 or 3 a year because she blows them out.
Yep, true.
Okay, so give me a second to get this stuff turned on and hooked up. This is a wireless, high quality noise canceling wireless one this is the one I use for Shift.
Okay.
And, but I was using another one because somebody else said they like that sound better. Okay, so let's check that out. Okay, so I've got this on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, let me put it on my lapel. Pull that one out. Okay. I don't have to get up and demo, so I'll just stick it. Oh no, but we don't want it to show.
That doesn't matter. Don't worry about it.
All these wires.
The YouTube one doesn't matter as much.
Give me a sec. Okay, so how do you feel about that sound?
Much better. I think it should be
Okay,
better.
no fuzz. Now, if you would like me to start over, we can just start the whole thing over.
It's okay.
I don't know where the buzz started.
I'll put a note in that to have our editor fix that. So, James, kudos to you, my friend. Thank you. Okay. So, Ellen, let's talk for a moment about energy medicine and how it ties into consciousness. I had the privilege of spending 2 weekends in a row with Bruce Lipton, first with him in Paris, and then this past weekend in Hungary. And we were talking about our consciousness and how our beliefs impact, as of course Bruce has written, the biology of belief. Talk to us about what you've discovered in this 40+ year practice of how our consciousness directly correlates, or maybe it doesn't, to our body and its health.
Okay. Well, I think that one thing that we have to say before I can fully address that is I don't see that the body is a separate thing from our consciousness. I feel that we span a spectrum from body, mind, spirit, and that's all us. I mean, I have all three on my spectrum. So I can go anywhere on the spectrum and affect the other aspects of it. I can go to my mind and affect my spirit and my body. I can go to my spirit and affect my mind and body. And I can go to my body to converse with and affect my mind and spirit. And when you start to see yourself as spanning these three densities of being, then it makes perfect sense that consciousness not only affects your well-being, but if you say, we're made of energy, they talk about we're made of energy. Scientists like to talk about, this is all energy and it looks solid. The energy we're made of, the subtle energy, is not like protons, neutrons, like they describe it in science. It is intelligent. It has consciousness. Maybe it is consciousness itself. So if you think I'm made of consciousness and I'm this web of expressive consciousness expressing itself in this concrete shared reality, then of course it has everything to do with consciousness because it is consciousness. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I completely understand that. On that note, so if everything is consciousness, where does illness come from?
Okay. Illness comes from when the body, mind, and spirit can't get on the same page. And, if you put three drivers in a car and they're all trying to drive the car, the car doesn't know where to go. And in a way, we have this committee of three. We have the spirit, we have the mind, we have the body, and they all have some kind of free will or agency, but they have to work together. And so whenever we're not living our soul's truth, whenever the mind is putting out a reality that doesn't match the body's reality, whenever the body has an agenda that the mind and spirit aren't attending to or honoring, that creates stress, and that stress creates illness. I mean, that's kind of simplistic because there's as many flavors of illness as there are, ice creams. But but I think that if we understand illness as the failure to function as well as we can in a moment, and as communications from the body to the mind and sometimes to the spirit of what it needs, then I think you can understand that if my body signals with a little discomfort, because the body speaks through symptoms, right? So if the symptoms, and I should say the body speaks through symptoms and sensations. And if I get a sensation or a little symptom and I ignore it, the body speaks louder. And if I ignore that, the body speaks louder. And pretty soon it's screaming at me, with illness. It snowballs into illness. So I think one of the root causes of illness is failure to show up and truly connect and build ongoing dialogue and conversation with our own instrument. And that's a lot of what I teach in my books, is how to work with this instrument, how to speak the language of energy to this matrix of energy that we are.
I want to further. Let's explore. Let's say that somebody right now who's listening, I like to imagine what our listeners are thinking right now. And somebody right now who's listening feels a tickle in their throat, right? What do you do when you feel a tickle in your throat so it doesn't explode into a full virus, flu, whatever it might be? Or is it just naturally going to go down that path?
Well, there's a lot of things you can do. First, the first thing, I say is show up. So maybe put your hand on your throat and touch it, or tune into it and just sort of investigate a little what that tickle is and where it's coming from. But I also like to teach a lot of different techniques for, hold on one second. I'm sorry, there's some noise happening in another room I'm hearing. Are you hearing it?
Mm-mm.
Okay, good. Funny day. Okay, so let me start again with that thought.
Hold on, I need to make a note where we are.
Okay, I'm going to just go say something to the other person. Judith? Judith? Are you talking? I'm hearing it in the midst. Okay. So sorry about that. Family member on the phone. Okay, so let's see, where were we? Okay, so you asked.
So let me just rephrase the question. So let's imagine that somebody has a tickle in their throat. And what do we do so it doesn't turn into a full-blown illness?
Okay, I think the first step is to tune in and just start to initiate a dialogue with that part of your body. So you can maybe touch your throat and feel into it and use all of your sensations, your hearing, your vision, your feel, your direct knowing, to sort of see if it says anything to you, what's going on. But beyond that, illness doesn't always come from the place it shows up. So I teach a lot of different techniques for investigating what is going on, what's the body saying to you in its own language, and then, of course, how can you respond in its own language. So, for example, those sniffer dogs at the airport that they have sniffing the contraband?
Yeah.
So you can invite a little sniffer dog to come and go find, what's the source of this tickle? Where's it coming from? And you send your little sniffer dog all over your body, maybe your field, maybe your mind, and even your life, and have the sniffer dog show you, where's this communication emanating from? What do I need to know relative to this thing? And usually the sniffer dog will take you right to where it's coming from. It might go down to your gut and you realize, oh, wait, yeah, my gut's kind of tight too. There's something happening there. And then you can communicate with your gut using energy language. You can touch it, you can tap it, you can figure eight it. There's many, many ways to communicate with energies.
What is figure eighted? I've heard many things in all of my years of interviewing people. And of course, you touch it, you talk to it. I've heard miraculous stories. I had a friend once completely disappeared tumor, and her doctor thought she had surgery without him knowing. So,
Yeah.
figure eighted, though.
So figure eighting is basically just draw a figure eight shape, either on the body directly or in the field over the body, because one of the most natural ways that energy likes to move is in a figure eight motion. And the more figure eights you have in your energy field, the healthier you are. So often when we're in a situation that's challenging our health, our energies stop figure eighting. They start going in parallel circles or other forms. Because again, not only are we a mass of energy, as I described, but it's always moving. It's a moving mass of energy, and it's not random. This isn't a Jackson Pollock painting, right? It has patterns and it has rhythms to it. So learning to speak energy to energy is learning how to work with those rhythms and patterns and reinforce the healthy ones, or recognize where the unhealthy ones are interfering with our natural flow. And so figurating is something that you can do even if you don't know what the flow is supposed to be. It helps reinstate healthy messaging in that area of your body.
Yeah, it's fascinating you bring that up. Offline, we were talking about another book I had just recently read, and somebody I know who, in her book, she talks about one of the oldest, I think it's the first Iceman. There's a term for it found in Italy, I think, that was thousands and thousands of years old. And what was mind blowing is that modern day acupuncture and medicine healers use two, I think it was in the book referenced, two parallel lines on different parts of the meridian on the body to heal. And yet they found this on a man 5,000 years old in ice. How is that possible? I mean, that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I think that our ignorance of how the body's energies work is fairly recent in history. I think we've been, especially in the Western medicine realm of people who are within the realm of allopathic medicine, we've really much been schooled to ignore our energies and how they work. And, the body has two languages. It speaks chemistry and it speaks energy or subtle energy. And our culture is so skewed towards the chemistry that, we go to the doctor, they test our blood for chemical balance, they give us a chemical intervention. And that's pretty much how our medicine is focused. But a lot of cultures, particularly older cultures, they use the energy communications of the body, which in some ways are more effective because they're less invasive, they're more immediate, and they underlie the chemistry. So your chemistry can't necessarily heal your energy, but healing your energy can frequently, if not pretty much always, heal your chemistry. So I think what they found in ancient man was practices that we're just rediscovering in our part of the world, but are still known in some of the older traditions. Certainly Chinese medicine has has held on to some of this knowing, and Tibetan medicine and some other forms of energy medicine around the globe. So
What are other ways, Ellen, that we can be proactive rather than reactive? As you said, waiting until we get to that point. There was the figure eight that you mentioned, talking to the body. What else are you a fan of things like meditation? We've had so many wonderful thought leaders on this show, and we're always talking about what are the ways that we can proactively heal our body so we don't even ever have to get to the tickle in the throat.
right. Well, if you remember, at least my definition of illness is that when the body's shouting louder and louder because it's not heard, that doesn't happen if you're in ongoing energy dialogue with yourself. And too often, even things we think we're doing proactively, we do it kind of medicinally. It's like we sit and meditate in order to not get sick or to not have uh, kind of stress or whatever. But I think that the part of those traditions that's particularly valuable for self-healing and wellness is the mindfulness practice. It's throughout the day engaging in energy dialogue and building relationship with your own instrument. And we are so focused in our world right now on what I call outside in thinking. We turn to outside experts to get information. We see ourselves as, how does the world see me? I'm gratified if you praise me or you validate my work, rather than being gratified by the doing of it, by the journey of it. And I think that the best way to cultivate wellness is to cultivate an inside out approach to living. And I don't just say this, I show in great detail all the many ways you can do that. Things like that sniffer dog exercise that gets us really going inward to get the information we need, rather than always objectifying ourselves. We want to enter into our subjective reality, our subjective living, and because when we die, we don't take the resume with us, right? But we do take the enrichment of our soul that happens when we're fully living. So I think that it's not about avoiding illness at all. It's about cultivating wellness.
Mm.
And well-being might involve some symptoms or some pain. I can be very well and still have a sore knee. And if I see myself as I'm not well because my knee is defective and I'm striving for perfectionism, I miss all those moments of wellness where I'm well though my knee hurts.
It's funny, you're making me think, Ellen, of what happened yesterday. I was traveling and I was at the airport. I don't know if this has ever happened to any of you out there. And as you have your bags and you're putting them in the security line and this and that, and you take off your shoes, and the next thing you know, I banged my little baby pinky toe on a metal thing as you're going through security. And I was like, ah, it hurts so bad. And so instead of, I was like, be with the pain. I remember hearing somewhere that it takes 90 seconds to feel something, to feel anger, feel pain, feel fear, sadness. And yet, most of the time, we don't give ourselves permission. So, everybody at the airport probably thought I was crazy because I'm just sitting there and I'm like feeling the pain, just going right into that little baby toe pain. And thank
Right.
God, between that and just staying with the pain, I didn't think I'd be able to walk. It was so painful. And calling a wonderful energy healer who I know, within an hour, I was back to normal. And now there's a tiny bit of pain. And it didn't, I think so often we allow ourselves to be the victim of our circumstances. Had I had a different mindset, I could have been in victim mentality, which would have suppressed my immune system even further. This isn't fair. They made me take off my, that whole story
Yeah.
that you could very easily narrate. And yet, when you put yourself in that powerful story of, I got this. Okay, I banged my toe. Am I going to survive it? Yes. Do I get
Right.
to feel the pain? Yes. Though I thought it was a great lesson of how you could almost feel the fork in the road where our choices and our consciousness, to take it back to consciousness, really determines the outcome of how different opportunities for health might show up.
Absolutely. And I think we have those choice points throughout our day, not only in whether we listen to pain or not, but whether we participate in creating a self. If where we say, I want to be this kind of person, I want to do it this way, not with this outer image of who I want to become, but this is the energy I want to inhabit in this moment. And I think that when we not only create the habit of dialogue with our own being, but we activate what I call the inner guidance system that's built into every fiber of our being, you get to the point where you don't have to call the healer you know because you are the healer you know. Where in any moment, unless you're so outside yourself you can't function. I occasionally ask healers to dance in, but most of the time, if I sprain my ankle, I know how to put it back. I know how to reset it so that I can walk in about 5 or 10 minutes. And I know how to bring my blood pressure down if I feel it go up. And I know how to calm the reactivity that threatens to ruin my entire day when I run into somebody that, when I run into something, excuse me, something metal that derails me in a moment. And that's what I'm talking about in Your Body Will Show You the Way, of developing that skill set and that ongoing relationship with your own being. Because I think in our culture we're not taught that how to use the user's manual that's built into the body. And it's here for us. It's not something some special individual knows. We, each of us, can learn to access the user's manual, and your body will show you what does it need in order to heal that situation. If you did tune into your toe, so that's the first step, and you listen to the pain. That's another step. You could have asked it, what would be of help right now?
Ah,
And asked it, not just once, but every minute or 2 minutes. And it might have said, well, just hold me, like a kid that's hurt, hold me and kiss me and love me. And then maybe a few minutes later, it would have said, well, could you put an ice cube there, or plunge me in cold water, or drink some cold water? Or could you do some certain kind of breathing, like breathe in on 3 and out on 5? And, there's all kinds of tools that the body can easily show you if you have them in your consciousness as possibilities of energy dialogue with your own being.
I love that, Ellen, because actually the first thing I did is I touched my toe and put my hands on it and said, I love you, toe. I'm so sorry. I apologize. I'm so sorry I caused you pain. I love you, toe. So I just kept telling
Perfect.
over and over and over just that I loved it. And that's so wise, though. when my friend healed the tumor in her body, she thought the people were off her rocker who said, put your left hand, it was on her vocal cords, and she's a famous speaker. And she put her hand on her vocal cords. The left hand, I think, is related to healing, correct? And
I never learned those rules, so I'm ambidextrous. There are some traditions that teach that. Mine both work. So
yeah, and what she did is just every day she would talk to her tumor and say, Tumor, what do you need? Tumor, what are you trying to teach me? Tumor, and just went on and on. And in fact, we have a healer on our platform, Denise DeSimone, who was very famous. She had stage 4 throat cancer, and she did the same.
yeah.
She even named her throat cancer and called it PIN for pain in the neck. And she talked to her throat cancer every day. And after the doctors gave her 3 months to live, she's still here and fine. I mean, it's remarkable.
Yeah, yeah, I have lots of stories like that, both in my book and in my life, from clients who just showed up for themselves and their body showed them how to heal. And they've healed things that aren't supposed to be healable, that are incurable, like, stage 4 cancer that they've been sent home to die, or, Donna Eden healed her MS by tuning into her body and building a different relationship and connecting energies up. So what I want to say about the language of energy, it's not like we have a dialogue with our imaginary friend. That's part of it. But it is also understanding that it may say, take off your party clothes and stay home.
Mm.
It might say, don't eat that food you just put on your plate. That's not what I need right now. I mean, it communicates much more than just emotional conversations. It gives us guidance as to how we use our energies moment by moment, and how we position our body moment by moment, and how we move moment by moment, and what energies we invoke or invite in moment by moment. So it's a lot. It's a very rich language, more than what we think of when we write little dramas and it's someone talking back and forth. The speech, it's almost more like sign language. It's much more multidimensional than verbal dialogue.
What happens, Ellen, if we get mixed signals? I'll give you a great example. So, as you know, I'm in Lisbon and there's a big conference happening, and I've been traveling, and my plane was delayed yesterday in Madrid on my way back from Budapest. And there's a part of me that is saying, no, I want to stay home. It is in my heights. This conference only happens once a year. There's a party I've already been invited to. And I just had my husband muscle test me, and my muscle test said yes. So I have these two conflicting parts. What do you do when you have, you muscle test, you check in, your muscles say, yes, it's in your highest and best good to go. And yet maybe you could call it your conscious is saying, I don't know about that. Like, how do you reconcile the two? How do you learn to interpret the language?
Well, when that happens, it means that your body, mind, and spirit aren't on the same page.
Ah.
So there's a couple things you can do. One thing you can do is figure eight from behind you, through your body, and forward ahead of you, as if it's wiser self, physical self, or earth elemental body self, and talking self, and just keep figurating forward to back through the body. You can do it on the side, but integrating those three selves to get them on the same page. So that's one thing you can do. You can also put one hand on your heart and one hand on your solar plexus, and maybe cross your ankles, which gives you better crossover in the body. And in that position, when you've got your ankles crossed and you're holding your heart and you're holding your solar plexus, and then breathe in on a count of 3 and out on a count of 5, just for a couple breaths. So breathe in, 2, 3, and then exhale on a count 2, 3, 4, 5. And what that breathing does, it helps you release stuff that's clogging your system and making it hard to make decisions or figure out what's what. So it's a gesture of release, right? The 3-5 breathing, and the holding of those points is integrating your heart with your identity, and the crossed ankles. You're crossing your left and right side. You're also touching a meridian that rules your nervous system. So the systems of the body have access points all over the body. And when you start to learn to work with these different access points, you can even make up in the moment what you need to kind of get everybody on board with having the conversation. And then you do that until you feel yourself shift into clarity. And then you can say, what's in my higher good? And sometimes it's not an either or. Sometimes it's not go to Lisbon or stay home. It's go to Lisbon, but skip everything but the party you have to go to.
Mm.
Or go to Lisbon, but take only my blue tops because I have to wear blue the whole time in order to feel good about myself. Or, so we have to stay open to the fact that when the body can't give us a yes, no answer, it may not be a yes, no question.
Mm. Brilliant, brilliant advice. Wow, there is obviously so much wisdom in your book that we're talking about today. Your body will show you the way. We have Ellen Meredith here with us. Ellen, are there any other tidbits or a last point that you'd love to leave our listeners with today? Maybe something I didn't ask you or one of your favorite topics in the book?
Well, I think my favorite topic at the moment is that we're really going through a big sea change in our world. This isn't about just details falling apart and systems breaking down. We really are shifting from, I believe, this yang outside in way of being to what I call empowered yin, the yin rising that's not passive at all. It's like the yin of a mother giving birth, and we're having to discover our own agency, our own ability to create a self and to work from the inside out, from within us. And there's a lot of garbage as we make this shift. Usually, when we make a big change, the old way gets very exaggerated, and the old way was very much about either or thinking, this kind of polarity, and so there's a lot of conflict right now around us, but it's like a tooth erupting. It hurts a lot and everything erupts, but then you get this great new tooth and you can chew more stuff. So I think we need to just remember that we're shifting and have compassion for each other, but try to cultivate the ability to see many different sides of things at once, what I call spherical both and thinking. And that's coming from the inside where we're connected. We're all connected. And I think that if we remember that we're all being triggered by a very, very, very big change it creates a lot of insecurity in individuals, we can start to find our own security as individuals that helps to anchor the world as it shifts and the people as it shifts. So I've really encourage people to go inward and to find those anchors within themselves, whether or not you learn the details of energy medicine. Just acknowledging your beautiful contribution to the collective and to the planet is already a wonderful gift to humanity.
I couldn't agree more. It's beautiful that you brought that up, Ellen. When we did our global launch of Om Heals, we called the weekend Healing from the Inside Out. And that's really what it comes down to. We all have the capacity to heal from the inside out. So, Ellen, where can people find information about you and your book?
Okay, well, my website is www.ellenmeredith.com, and that's Meredith. So ellenmeredith.com. I also have a YouTube channel, Energy Wisdom with Ellen Meredith, and I have a Facebook group that's about to launch about my work as well. But you can find my books and everything through my website. So ellenmeredith.com is probably the starting place.
Thank you so much, Ellen. I've been somebody who's been a devotee of energy medicine for many, many years now, and I always learn something new. That's what I'm so awe-inspired by this work, just the figure eight thing and so many of the wonderful tips and tidbits of wisdom you provided us all today. Please go out and check out Ellen's incredible work. And if you want to find out too, it is always free to find out who you match with. You can go to om-heals, om-heals.com, and find out with the 100+ practitioners we have from around the world, who do you match with, and see if you enjoy anybody's vibration. I am Jennifer Cahill, and it's such a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.